Alright, before I get into the video, I want to say a few things. Thank you viewer for taking the time to look at my video, it means a lot. Also make sure to subscribe if you are new here. Entitled Mother tries to make my friend and I leave the seats we paid for. This took place in a mall movie theater a few years back. Here's the cast. Me, teenage wheelchair user AR, my friend, also a teenage wheelchair user New, my friend's nurse M, the entitled mother. AR and myself went to a movie, and we bought tickets for 2 wheelchair seats, the only 2 wheelchair seats that didn't have a regular seat between them. The movie trailers had just started when M stood in front of us and demanded that we move to another seat so she could park her stroller. We refused, but she kept getting louder. She said that her seat was right behind us and she wanted to keep an eye on the stroller. The theater wasn't full, so I suggested that she move further down where there were open wheelchair spots. This really set her off. She told me that it's rude for a child to talk back to an adult. I told her I was 17, but she didn't believe me. She started yelling at us, going on about how kids like us already get whatever we want out of pity, how we don't know what it's like to spend all day walking around the mall with a little kid, the movie was PG-13 BTW, and how we shouldn't even be out by ourselves anyway. At this point, New came over and told M to stop harassing us. New also pointed out that those spaces were reserved for wheelchairs, not strollers. This sent M on another tangent, full of racial slurs and mocking New for working for 2 white brats. New is a black woman. New calmly left the theater, and M kept yelling at us. At one point, M tried to physically move AR's manual wheelchair. The only reason AR didn't completely flip over is because a man a few rows back saw what was happening and grabbed the back of AR's chair as she was falling forward. New came back in with the manager of the theater and a security guard, who had a brief confrontation with M before removing her from the theater. The manager ended up giving the 2 of us each a free popcorn and drink as an apology. All that for a movie my dad had already spoiled for me. No, Karen, your brat cannot have our cats. So this happened just today. We are trying to sell my current house and so we had a showing. Usually, they last only about an hour, but our real estate called us and told us the people wanted more time, which we agreed to, thinking they would want to buy it. We come back about 45 minutes later and see our real estate agent, their real estate agent, and a family in the driveway. The following conversation goes as followed. M, Mom. OA, our agent. Ta, their agent. M, entitled Mom. QD, quiet dad. B, brat or spawn of Satan. OA, MRS I'm so sorry, there's a slight problem. M, what is? M, how much for your cats? M, excuse me? M, well, we were looking at your house, and my daughter loves cats and she saw them and fell in love, so how much? M, sorry, they're not for sale. B, Mommy, I want them. M, look, I'll give you 500 for them both. M, I'm sorry but they're not for sale, I hope this doesn't change your opinion about the house. M, I only want the cats. M, well then I'm sorry I wasted your time. We just walk towards the house at this point assuming they're done. M, talk to them and work it out. Look, they're very valuable customers to our business and we really need to make the sale, will you please consider throwing in the cats as a bonus? They're adjusted to the house and I'm sure the family would take great care of them. M, absolutely not, they're our fur babies. Brat runs past my mom and runs into my house, we look at M astonished. Laughing, M says well she won't leave till she gets what she wants. M, wow, you're a terrible parent. M, excuse me? You're the one who is teaching your kids to be selfish brats. At this point we run in to find the brat covered in scratched and one very chunky very fluffed up cat. B, Mommy, it hurt me crying. M, we're leaving. You will be hearing from my lawyer for this. M. Yeah, okay. M scoops up brat and leaves in a huff. Her husband mouths sorry to us and turns and leaves. Sorry, the format is god awful, I'm just super annoyed. My mother thinks she deserves half of my child support bonus payment to spend it for her own pleasures. So I live in Germany, where the government is planning to give everyone who is eligible of child support 300 additional euros over the course of 3 months due to the disadvantages of the corona crisis still going on. I already have my own flat and I study, so I am still able to receive payment. For some reason though, my money always gets sent to my mother's bank account and she sends it to me. It has worked out so far, but she usually sends me 10 euros less than what I am supposed to receive. I never cared too much because I don't want to bitch about 10 bucks. So I gave my mom a call and asked her if she saw the news and reminded her to send me the money, which would be 100 additionally each month for 3 months altogether. She suddenly said, well, I will take 150 of them, we both deserve it, don't we? I was shocked and asked her what she intends to spend it on. I could finally go on some short trips and buy expensive food, was her response. Just a short note, my mother has been jobless ever since I was born and refused to get a job till this day. She often cries about how I have more money than her and it's unfair. So she literally told me it's perfectly fine to just take half of the money that is supposed to be for me. Dr. Ops mom refuses to work, complains about no money, government wants to pay more child support for 3 months due to corona crisis. Ops mom wants to take half of it because she is poor. In-law evicted us illegally. Backstory. My wife and I have been together for over 10 years. We have 2 children together, one is autistic and the other is like me with ADHD, OD, OCD and anxiety. In 2017 I was in a really bad car crash when my 2012 Chevy Volt, when it completely powered down, leaving me without control and sending me off the highway into a tree at 60 miles an hour. I did my best to stay on my feet and keep working, but over time my back got worse and worse until October of 2018, when I got to work I was physically unable to get out of my car. I went to one doctor after another trying to figure out what we could do, and we tried everything. I was eventually diagnosed with thoracic degenerative disc disease and another weird bone issue that can't be fixed. I was out of work for 2.5 years, but my wife, being the saint that she is, kept us afloat as best we could. She's an office worker that works with attorneys and taxes, making an okay income, and I worked door-to-door sales for a national cable company and I was making over 100,000 a year. Needless to say, getting knocked out of work killed our budget and we needed to move home to be closer to family. As we were searching, my wife's mother offered to buy a house and do a rent-to-own contract with us. Housing here in the Midwest is cheap, averaging under $900 a month. We agree and the whole family helps us move. Our house was a mess, me not being able to bend over, our kids being young, and we have 3 dogs. I was embarrassed to say the least, but it became apparent that as soon as I was unable to work, my wife's family wanted me gone. My wife even told me that they said she should leave me and that she would be better off with a man that isn't disabled. We move and all is going well. My kids are in school and getting all the support they need, making friends and overall loving it. Our autistic son hasn't attacked anyone or bit, or hit, or had a freakout. Us living closer to home, with my family's support and hers, we start to recover, but with me still not being able to bend over or even sweep the floor without it feeling like my spine is going to explode makes it so our house is still a mess. I eventually try to find another sales job working for a car dealership. I lasted 19 days before having to quit. I get recommended to see a pain doctor locally and go see them. I get shots, have MRI scans and other stuff, and nothing works. The doctor recommended a chiropractor. I had grown up believing chiropractic stuff was a scam, or better yet, as told by Penn and Teller bull POO. However, I go and my God was it painful, but I notice I could move better. The chiropractor puts me on a schedule to go times a week for 6 weeks. I never miss an appointment and see the changes take effect quickly. I can put socks on again, I can move, I can walk more than a block. Best of all, I could make love to my beautiful wife again, but still I can't to this day pick something up off the floor without laying on the floor to get it. As soon as we moved into our new house, I ask about the rent to own, and my in-law says it's a family matter and not to worry about it, that my wife has it taken care of. Turned out it was just verbal. In-law says they will do the normal landlord stuff and will make repairs as needed and remove a dead tree that looked like it was going to fall on the house at any day. Time passes and we ask about the tree and repairs, and in-law says she will get them fixed when I move out. Not we, just I move out. I'm adopted and acceptance means a lot to me and family is a true gift, but I had never expected this and just walked away. More time passes and our Chihuahua Dachshund mix has found the extra bedroom as the perfect place to poop and pee, and though we keep the door closed, he can crawl through the air vent like a supervillain in a heist, but to leave poop instead of steal the royal jewels. This goes completely unnoticed as we don't use that room and even have a padlock on it because we only use it as storage and haven't needed to add or retrieve anything to that room. Over the 2 years I have gained over 150 pounds and my wife is riding the 200 pounds mark, so we start walking and trying to get in shape. My wife decided we should get a treadmill and we could turn the extra room into a gym. We find one and in-law helps wife bring it home. Wife gives in-law the key to the padlock and she goes in the room. Screaming and crying happens and in-law storms out of the house. The next morning, being Sunday, my wife gets a call from her mother saying her mother was coming over to clean our house. My wife tells her no, that it was 6 a.m. and we would clean the house. We didn't know our dog was using that room as a toilet. In-law hangs up on my wife and leaves my wife in tears. I call in-law and tell her no means no and to not come over without 24-hour notice or unless invited. She hangs up on me. My wife has a panic attack and goes to bed. I tell her I'll deal with it. Sure enough, a few minutes later, a loud banging on our back door. I go to the door and tell her to go away. She said this is her daughter's house and that I'm not welcome and I needed to let her in. I tell her no and tell her if she doesn't leave I will call the cops. She replies with she will call the cops if I don't let her in. I tell her to call them and we will see who's right. Backstory about me personally. I graduated college with a degree in criminal justice and had worked security up until I met my wife and chose to have a safer life. I studied law and kept up with law enforcement trainings and studying the law as well. I know what a landlord is and isn't allowed to do, and since she had clearly cut me away from the family, I saw no reason for exceptions to be made. She pulled out her phone, paused and put it away. I told her to leave again and she refused. I dialed 911, yes, overkill when it's a small town, but I don't play games at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. I tell dispatch what's happening and they say they will send an officer. She yells and screams and eventually my wife comes down to face her. In-law explodes on wife for letting me call the cops and tells her a bunch of nonsense about her having to choose her or me. Wife tells her she chooses me. In-law leaves crying. I have a job interview the following day that turns into an instant job again in car sales, and I'm at the dealership until 9 p.m. that night. When I get home I find my wife crying, eating a tub of ice cream and watching TV. I ask her what's wrong and she explained that in-law and stepfather came over, yelled at her and made her sign a contract for other bills her mother had helped us with in the past, raising our rent by $200 a month. No mention of me in the contract or anything. I call in-law and tell her we will not be doing that as we are a team and financial responsibility falls on both of us and must involve both of us. Wife also tells in-law she is siding with me again on this. The next day while I'm at work my wife calls me crying and hysterical. She had been served at work a letter stating that as we didn't have a rental agreement the landlord was evicting us in 30 days. Under Iowa law, if you have a month-to-month rental agreement or no agreement at all, the landlord can end it if they give 30 days notice. However, we had a rent-to-own contract, very different. I picked to stand our ground because we would win and start compiling as much evidence as I can, not only to win the case but to seek damages for everything. My plan was to use the money from the damages to end up buying the house and totally saying blow off to in-law. My wife tells me she doesn't want to fight and that we will move and cut ties with in-law. I tell her if she's sure I'll go with it. We find a place in the next town over and move. Instantly our kids have issues in school. This school was not ready for special needs kids, and overall I would say the whole thing set our family back about another 2 years. We are stable now. I left the car dealership when COVID hit and went back to working security so I would be an essential person and secure in pay. On top of all of this, another thing about in-law has always pissed me off. She plays the I'm a good Christian card all the time while speaking bad about minorities and homosexuality. She doesn't know that my wife and I are polyamorous, and before we had to move back home we had a girlfriend that lived with us full-time for 3 years. When one of our friends was getting married and the wedding date also fell on a family gathering, in-law exploded on us saying why would we go to a lesbian wedding when it means nothing to God, and asked what's wrong with people. I was about to open my mouth and spill the beans about our lifestyle when my wife gave me that look. In-law still doesn't know that her hatred of others affects us on a daily basis, and recently my wife has started to try to patch things up, but I'm still treated like shit even though I'm working and supporting the family again. I really hate this woman and wish when I caught COVID and was sick that I went over to visit and gave her a big hug and spit right in her eye. She is truly the worst person I've ever met. Make sure to like, share, subscribe if you haven't done yet. Thanks for watching.